Hey everyone, welcome back to Pop Incursions. I'm Nico and today we are going to break down the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer and we are going to spot all the Easter eggs, little things you missed. Just a heads up, major spoilers for the trailer as well as Loki season 1 and 2 and the Marvels.
Right a bit.
Oh darling, I'm no ordinary woman. I'm the goddess of death.
How I speak for myself. Trespassing in this city and on this planet.
Case closed.
Okay. The 9 realms will know freedom. And the cosmos.
We're not busy gaslighting you, they're threatening you with murder. That's what all the podcasts are about.
Avengers!
I'm sorry, my king, but we're out of time. I'm ready to give my closing argument.
It's Shang-Chi.
Higher princess.
That's the sound of lightning.
Exhausted my patience.
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes.
So, mid-Super Bowl, Ryan Reynolds dropped the trailer on Instagram and Twitter, and then Marvel released it too. And I suppose we have to get used to calling it Deadpool and Wolverine, as that is the apparent title for Deadpool 3. However, Hugh Jackman would rather you call it Wolverine and Haas. It is certainly one hell of a teaser trailer, and not only have we learned that the TVA have a huge part to play in Wolverine and Ass. I didn't even mean to say that on purpose. Deadpool and Wolverine, it could reveal and answer our questions about the multiverse. For those of you who may not be familiar with Deadpool, I will briefly introduce you. So Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson, is a wisecracking mutant first introduced in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but truly and properly introduced in Deadpool 1 back in 2016. Deadpool 1 saw Wade meet Vanessa, the love of his life, but unfortunately soon after he got a cancer diagnosis. Wade didn't want to lose his life with Vanessa, so he signed up to a program to unlock his mutant gene. There they put him through a series of traumatic events to unlock and stimulate this mutant gene. For those of you who don't know, or if your memory is a little fuzzy around the X-Men, the mutant gene is what provides X-Men and fellow mutants with their special abilities. It is often triggered around puberty or times of high stress and trauma, which is often why mutant origins can be so traumatizing. According to Professor X or Charles Xavier, mutation is the next step in human evolution, although those without mutant abilities don't like to agree. This is normally the main plot motivation behind a lot of the X-Men films. Often, authority and mutants don't see eye to eye because authority fears what it cannot control, leading to the political shenanigans in X-Men The Last Stand and in X-Men Days of Future Past. Once Wade or Deadpool became a mutant, his ability was regeneration or immortality in a sense, similar to Wolverine's ability to regenerate or heal himself. Wade was also then able to break the fourth wall, which is what allows him to know that he's in a movie and be aware of the different film timelines.
Oh, hello. I know, right?
This is exactly what we saw with Jennifer Walters, who was also able to break the fourth wall and because of that was aware that she had her own show as seen in She-Hulk.
Is next episode the finale?
Come on, let's go.
The process left Wade with skin complications and scars, and the rest of Deadpool 1 saw Deadpool go after Francis, the guy who put him through the traumatizing experience of becoming a mutant. In Deadpool 1, he teams up with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, two members of the X-Men. Deadpool 2 saw the death of Vanessa, the love of his life, which then spurred Wade's attempt at being a member of the X-Men, with the X-Men that they could afford, Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Colossus. It also saw the introduction of Yukio, who was the girlfriend of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. They then tried to help Russell, also known as Fire Fist, a young mutant who could expel fire from his hands. However, he was also being hunted by a man who time traveled from the future, Cable. Cable was hunting Russell because he would later go on to kill his wife and daughter. Wade convinced Cable to save Russell rather than killing him because Wade could see the true source of his hurt and trauma, which would later fuel his villainy, because Russell was being abused in a mutant orphanage. Deadpool created an X-Force team and all worked out well. Cable didn't have to kill Russell to save his wife and daughter, and at the end of the film, Wade uses Cable's time machine with the help of Negasonic Teenage Warhead to go back in time and fix a few things, like saving Vanessa from her murder, going back to kill the Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, being able to go back and stop Ryan Reynolds from doing the Green Lantern film, and killing baby Hitler. Rhodey would be proud. It's his messing with time that we assume is what attracts the attention of the TVA and begins the antics of Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, in case you're wondering why the X-Men and Mutants are being introduced into the MCU now, it's because Disney bought the rights to the Fox X-Men and their characters, and we have seen in our MCU the first introduction of mutants with Miss Marvel and Namor. We've also seen mutants across the MCU Multiverse, such as Professor X in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in Universe 838, and we saw a comic accurate and much improved Beast in the post-credit scene of The Marvels, which also saw the introduction of another hero, Binary, and the mention of another Professor X as well. We know that after Avengers Secret Wars we can expect the mutants and X-Men to take centre stage in the MCU. However, beforehand we expect Deadpool and Wolverine and Avengers Secret Wars to allow the Fox X-Men to have some time in the spotlight before bidding them farewell. Now let's start the breakdown. So we see Wade celebrating his birthday with his loved ones, and then in the next shot we can see Wade put his hand to his face with Vanessa sitting across from him as we hear him say,
"Been a challenging few years, for sure, but I'm happy."
No doubt referencing the events of Deadpool 1 and 2, but could there be more? As we see Vanessa and Wade in this shot, could this be Vanessa breaking up with him? Or perhaps they've been trying for a child, Cher, and it just hasn't been happening. We then see in the next shot that he's celebrating his birthday, and we can see Vanessa, Peter and Shatterstar, which are obviously all resurrected, likely to the thanks of Cable's time machine. We can also see Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Yukio, Blind Al, Book and Doppender, who of course voices Spider-Man India and was introduced last year in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. As they are celebrating Wade's birthday, he blows out his candle and makes a wish, but exactly after he does that, he gets a knock at the door, and when he answers, it's the TVA. More specifically, the Minutemen from the TVA. And the Minutemen are standard TVA soldiers who makes the arrests, bring in the apprehended variants, and prunes and resets the timeline. Could they be here because of what Wade wished for, or could it be a coincidence? Perhaps Wade is just after coming back from using Cable's time machine, or if it is related to the wish, what is the wish? Is Wade a little bit jealous maybe of the MCU's Avengers and never being able to be on the Fox X-Men? And maybe now he wants his time to be on a team? Also, perhaps these challenging few years may not have been as easy as he had wished, and it will be easier to just go back to being a hero rather than live in this reality with whatever issues may be going on. For those of you who may not have watched Loki, which I strongly recommend you do, and I may actually do a video covering the events of Loki and what people may need to know for Deadpool and Wolverine and Avengers Secret Wars, but now I will very briefly try to explain the TVA. The TVA, which stands for the Time Variance Authority, was founded by a Kang the Conqueror variant. A variant is an alternate version of oneself who may be very similar or widely different from the next, but they all share a baseline essence, which you could call what's called a temporal aura, which could also be described as someone's kind of signature on time. Kang the Conqueror is a well-known Marvel Comics villain and was originally named Nathaniel Richards. Nathaniel Richards is actually a descendant of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four. Nathaniel Richards, born in the 31st century, developed time-traveling technology to go back to ancient Egypt and become Pharaoh Ramatut. Nathaniel's variants did similar and all shared the theme of using this time-traveling technology to conquer universes and timelines for their own agendas. Eventually, they began fighting over each other's universes and timelines, which led to a vast multiversal war, which led to the destruction of everything. Except one Kang variant won the multiversal war, and this Kang variant would later be known as He Who Remains and founded the TVA. Using the TVA, this He Who Remains created and established a sacred timeline. He Who Remains controlled and literally typed up what events would occur on this sacred timeline. He Who Remains did this to prevent the existence of any other Kang variants and thus preventing another multiversal war. However, to do this, He Who Remains used the TVA to prune any branched timelines that could possibly lead to the existence of another Kang variant. So everything we saw in the MCU up until Loki Season 1 was predetermined according to He Who Remains' plans. When something is pruned, it is sent to the Void, which is a place that sits outside time and space and does not affect time. There, Alioth, a cloudy monster, consumes the matter that's transported there when someone or something is pruned. After sitting at the end of time for eons, He Who Remains grew bored and tired and wanted Loki to take his place. We can see this long and difficult journey across Loki Season 1 and 2. But, long story short though, Loki did take He Who Remains' place, but not in the way that He Who Remains intended. Instead of just taking over, Loki, with the help of a female variant of himself, Sylvie, and some good and not so loyal TVA staff members, Mobius, Hunter B-15, KC and OB, helped to free the timeline so people could live with free will. However, to do that, they have to allow the branched timelines to do exactly that, to branch. To do so, Loki has to sit at the end of time holding the branched timelines of the multiverse in place to allow everyone else to live with free will. Loki also reformed the TVA to protect time and stop any Kang variants across the timelines.
I guess one of them caused a little bit of a ruckus on 616 adjacent realm, but they handled it. So.
Significantly, allowing the timelines to branch would allow for the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, What If Season 1 and 2, Loki Season 2, and the Marvels to take place. When Wade is arrested by the TVA, we see a similar scene to that of Loki's TVA arrest. And no diss on Wade, but they don't have to put up as much of a fight, likely because Wade doesn't have magic like Loki. You could also say Wade knows not to put up a fight because he knows that they can clearly handle him. When the Minutemen take off Wade's wig, it feels very symbolic that his happiness is being disturbed, and then they walk through the time door. The Minutemen we are seeing are wearing different uniforms to the Minutemen we've seen in Loki. They're much more modern and shiny, and they have masks which look very sci-fi robot-like. Here's a photo comparing the Minutemen in TVA to that of Deadpool and Wolverine. The Marvel Studios logo then turns red for Deadpool. Wade gasps and wakes up in what looks to be an interrogation/interview, and a character played by Matthew MacFadyen says,
Mr. Wilson, you appear to have soiled yourself while unconscious.
I wasn't unconscious.
But why would Wade be unconscious? Normally, the TVA doesn't knock people out to bring people in. And if this was the old TVA, Wade would be wearing a neck collar and a TVA variant jumpsuit, but he's not wearing any of that. As the shot pulls back, it's clear they're in the TVA, but it looks like a very different time theatre than that of which we would have seen Loki being interrogated by Mobius in. It's not orange, it's green, possibly green for Loki. Matthew MacFadyen's character is clearly a TVA analyst just like Mobius. Wade then asks, "Who are you? Why am I here?" And from the captions we learn that this character by Matthew MacFadyen is called Paradox. And Paradox is actually a Mobius variant from the comics first appearing in a She-Hulk comic Go She-Hulk. And I love the timey-wimey names of the TVA staff. We have Mobius, we have OB, we have now Paradox. Paradox says walk with me, and we can see a door open into a TVA corridor, but again it looks very different from the TVA we know from Loki. We can see what is either a mural or a monitor with different timelines, but it's hard to say if this is indeed the new Yggdrasil or something else. We then see Wade staring into a locker with his Deadpool suit in and two stickers, one of a bird on a football and another that has "Be Kind," I think, written on it. We hear Paradox say,
Wade, you are special.
Now, this could be a locker in the TVA and they have his Deadpool suit ready for him, or more likely, this is a locker in work. And we can see that Wade is wearing a polo shirt and a name tag, and on the name tag we can see the logo Drive Max. This is likely prior to being arrested, because it's also a different outfit than the Hawaiian shirt he wore being arrested, and I'm gonna guess this is his everyday normal job. The alleged new job is a car salesman, and he misses being a hero. We then see an unfocused shot of Deadpool suited up in a snowy forest as Paradox says,
This is your chance to be a hero among heroes.
And then another shot opens with both Paradox and Wade in the TVA. Then a wall of TVA monitors turn on and we see 3 clips from the MCU, the first 2 being from Avengers Age of Ultron. The first screen shows Iron Man landing at the Sokovian Castle. The second monitor shows the opening shot of all of the Avengers in Age of Ultron. And the third is the bridge scene from Thor Ragnarok. If we look at the smaller monitors, we see a lot are just technological and mathematical graphs and charts, but one has Deadpool in a suit. Now, I've seen a lot of online speculation of what this could be, but to me it looks like Deadpool accepting the Emmy that we only saw last month. We see another shot of the monitors and now Deadpool and Paradox is standing in front of them and Deadpool is saluting to Captain America, and in the comics Deadpool has a lot of respect for Captain America. The 3 monitors show different footage now, the first being Captain America fighting Batroc on Lemurian Star from Captain America the Winter Soldier, the second being Captain America landing on the helicarrier in again Captain America the Winter Soldier, and the third being Captain America about to fight in again Captain America the Winter Soldier. A new shot shows a convoy of vehicles on a sandy rocky terrain as Deadpool says,
I smell what you're stepping in, Sensei.
This could be on Earth, it could be another planet, maybe another world, hint hint, or the void after a drought. We then see a fading shot of a bald head from the back, and I think this could be a certain antagonist who is related to a prominent X-Men member, and this is a heavily rumoured character who is supposed to be a villain in the film. So if you don't want to find out who this is, skip to this time in the video. It's allegedly Cassandra Nova, the evil twin of Professor Charles Xavier. She is just as strong as him, but 100% evil. Think the antithesis of Professor X. In the comics, they even have a fight in the womb. Professor X tries to kill her, but she is capable of regenerating herself from a few basic cells. So it's looking like she could be a little scorned and out for revenge. Who knows, she could be the new boss of the Void instead of the Lokis. I really hope we get to see this in utero fight because it will be so cool and quite original, I have to say, for the MCU. Deadpool says,
Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever.
The shot fades into Deadpool sitting in what looks like Hulk's Sakaran bed, which is essentially the mandible and maxilla of a very large creature. However, the background doesn't have the red and white walls that we saw in Ragnarok, but instead is a very rocky, cavernous landscape, and I think there's a snake outside the bed. However, there has been a lot of speculation and some good guesses based on the rocky and cavernous landscape landscape, the presence of the giant maxilla and mandible, and the potential snake, that this could actually be Deadpool in the Savage Land, which is a secret land in Antarctica where dinosaurs are still alive and quite the haven for mutants, and it is in the comics. So potentially this is where we are. But the question is this Savage Land in our 616 MCU or somewhere in the multiverse where the X-Men have been based? Now fades again, this time into Deadpool in a casino, and we get a behind shot of someone who looks like Wolverine. Maybe not Hugh Jackman's Wolverine though, maybe a variant. And they're blocking the person that's sitting opposite them, who could be potentially Gambit, considering they're in a casino. This Wolverine, of course, could be Patch. Now, Patch is a character or a persona that Wolverine takes on while he's in Madripoor. Madripoor is a fictional country, but is a country in the MCU that we have visited before in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Sam, Bucky, and Zemo, and it is where we found Sharon Carter was hiding out since Civil War. Also, if you remember in She-Hulk, a website article referenced a man with metal claws in a bar fight. Could this be where that fight took place, and is this our MCU variant of Wolverine? Also, could this casino be where we could see a potential Taylor Swift cameo? Personally, and I know nothing has been confirmed yet, I bet she is in the film, and I know some people are saying she's probably just going to be herself, but in the MCU, so Taylor Swift in the MCU. But if you got the chance to be in a Marvel project, why wouldn't you play a character? So I'm going to guess that yes, she's in the film and she plays Dazzler, which would be epic to see and epic to know that that character exists. Deadpool says to Paradox,
I'm the Messiah. I am Marvel Jesus.
Which is funny, but often messiahs end up having to die for the cause, but hopefully that won't happen in this film. Then we see Deadpool get ready to suit up with the assistance of an older gentleman wearing white gloves, and he gives him a few tushy taps. Then, if you look frame by frame, we can see that this looks to be a tailor's office in the TVA. There's posters about uniforms. There's a uniform on a mannequin and what looks to be thread. Then Wade, aka Deadpool, makes his big entrance in his new and improved suit, which most notably features a comic-accurate Deadpool logo on the belt. Then we see Deadpool fighting the Minutemen in the snowy forest from earlier, but with a lot more violence. In the first frame, we can see an overturned vehicle and then Deadpool killing the Minutemen. There's been a lot of speculation about where this could be. Most popular 2 or 3, I should say, is either the opening scene in Age of Ultron in Sokovia, or Logan's grave just in the winter, or the Void. And if he's fighting the Minutemen, I think this means he could be pruned or about to be pruned, and he probably wasn't overly helpful in whatever they asked him to do in the first place, and now they're turning on him. In the next shot, we see Deadpool reloading his guns in front of the 20th Century Fox logo, which does look to be in the Void. So if they have pruned the 20th Century Fox logo, this is very telling of what we can probably expect to see in the film. Probably a farewell to that Fox X-Men universe and the characters in that universe, but also suggesting it's going to be very meta in true Deadpool and fourth wall breaking style. Then we see a TVA Minuteman shouting, "Yeah, please! Oh my!" as one character holds a gun up to him. He's chained up, and then a light comes along and gobbles him up, seemingly confirming that this is indeed the Void. Deadpool is horrified as he shouts, "Oh my!" Oh my, which wasn't censored, but it was censored in the captions. No sense. Just beyond where Alioth ate the TVA Minuteman, and in the corner of the shot we can see a cupcake, which is most likely the cupcake truck from Moon Knight, And there were leaked set photos that did contain this truck, among others, as little Easter eggs. So, could we see Moon Knight in Deadpool and Wolverine? Given all of this and the likely occurrences of Incursions and the general chaos that the multiverse is in, I think we can see the Void turn into Battleworld for Avengers Secret Wars, because it's the perfect place. Everyone, everything, including weapons, are all being sent there either through pruning or through Incursions. So, it's the perfect place for Battleworld to take place. Then we see Deadpool come through the back windshield of a car, and they were very cruel to make this man look like Doom on a first viewing, but unfortunately he's not. Although his outfit reminds me of what people in the quantum realm wore when Janet was trying to get a ride. We can see in the background 3 Easter eggs, one being a helicarrier either from Avengers or Captain America the Winter Soldier. We can also see a Chitauri Leviathan, the large worm-like creatures which we saw in Avengers, and what looks to be part of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is likely from X-Men The Last Stand when Magneto moved the bridge. We then see Deadpool fighting people in the snowy forest and in the Void. There's a lot of fighting and action, and we even see Deadpool inside a very bloody car. And then who do we see? Pyro from X2 and X-Men The Last Stand, as he says, "God, I love this part." This also kind of confirms we are going to see some of those Fox X-Men characters, and it's obviously hard to present them the same way they were in the films because so much time has passed, but we're probably going to see older versions of them, just like this Pyro. Back in the snowy forest, Deadpool ducks behind a tree that has fallen down and shouts "wait," which is something he has done in every Deadpool film to buy him some time. Wait! Then back in the Void, we see Deadpool break through some stone or a wall and land in front of the 20th Century Fox logo, which was pruned. We then see Deadpool lying on a very dry and cracked ground, which actually reminded me of the location that the Black Panther and Namor fought in at the end of Wakanda Forever. And then we see the shadow of Wolverine approach, and Deadpool says,
Don't just stand there, you ape. Give me a hand up.
And then we see in the shadow that Wolverine gets his claws out and straight in to Deadpool. And this is the first look we get of Wolverine in the trailer, especially him in his comic accurate suit. And I know a lot of people are saying they already kind of leaked one of the photos of both of them. Why wouldn't they show us? But we have to remember, not all of us live on Twitter waiting for all this stuff. So I'd say most people still haven't seen it. So it's a great way to build up suspense, but also say this character is this like well known and iconic that you don't even have to see him. Even his shadow alone will get the hype up. In that shot, we can see beside Deadpool on the ground is a Secret Wars issue 5 comic, which features Doctor Doom on the comic cover. So this is the first MCU appearance of kind of the mention or hint of Doctor Doom. On that comic as well is a bottle of Pingo Doce, which were the bottles produced in Brazil in The Incredible Hulk, and of course one of those bottles had Hulk's gamma blood in it and Stan Lee drank from it. So perhaps in whatever universe the TVA stopped Stan Lee from drinking it. This is when we also learned the title for Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is just perfect. It's a perfect title because it's, you know, there's no confusion. It's not this, oh, let's call it something that's oh so meaningful or metaphorical that you have to look into or anything. It's just Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's simple, but it works, and I'm sure it's going to get its money worth of that name. Of course, this was just a teaser trailer, and even though it's as long as a normal one, it just gave us a little glimpse into what we can expect. They had the entire first half of the film shot before the strike, so they had all that strike time to edit that, whereas they only finished filming the second half of the film in the last few weeks. I also think because it's coming out in July, we're probably due the next trailer at the latest in April or May, which will probably give us a better glimpse into the plot and what or who we can expect to see. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is the fact that the TVA is in Deadpool, and there has been, you know, some talk recently that, you know, with MCU projects there's too much homework now, which really is not a complaint. That's the fun part about it, is that there are things connected, and I don't see it as a barrier. While I know other people do, if you're going to invest your time into it, then wouldn't you want to be able to enjoy the fact that it's an interconnected universe? And I mean, just look at the Marvels. Now, I know unfortunately the Marvels had no proper in-person promo or kind of PR tour, press tour from the actors themselves because of the strike. And honestly, in retrospect, I think that they should have pushed the Marvels till now, till February, because they would have been able to have a better press tour and get Brie, Iman, Teyonah, Zoe all to promote it in person. One thing that was a bit of a complaint by some people, now look, I know that most of these people, that wasn't the real complaint, and they were just simply hating on it because it wasn't a straight white man and it was, you know, 3 women leads. But for some people, they did say that the fact you have to watch WandaVision and Miss Marvel to know who Photon and Miss Marvel are was a bad thing. And yet, here we are in Deadpool and Wolverine, we have the TVA, which again is the same length of homework that you would need to do for the Marvels, because it's Loki season 1 and 2, and it's a lot more complicated to try and explain to audiences what the TVA is, what happened in Loki, if they haven't seen it. Now look, Marvel does one thing great, which is catching the viewer up on the essentials. If you went into the Marvels, for example, they explained about what happened with Monica, what happened with Kamala and the Bangle. You just don't get the whole backstory, the exposition, the stories, things like that. And I'm sure that in Deadpool and Wolverine, they will do their due diligence to make sure that they explain to the audience how it works, but not in a huge way that takes up a load of time and feels like an explanation. So for me, it's so exciting, and I mean so exciting, to see the TVA in a MCU film or in another MCU project, because this is the first time we're seeing them in any other project besides Loki. And I love Loki the series, particularly for the TVA aspects, how it all works, the timey-wimey things. I love all of that stuff. So I'm very excited about it. I do have a possible theory though, that I am not going to go into too much now, but I will cover briefly, which is, what if this TVA is not the same TVA as the one we learned of in Loki? I'm not going to lie, personally I wasn't the biggest Deadpool fan. I can enjoy the films, that's great. You know, we all have our own personal favourites. But the fact that he's entering the MCU with Wolverine, hopefully bringing some other Fox X-Men characters and even variants into the MCU, is very, very exciting. And the fact that the TVA is involved, variants are involved, I am super excited. Unlike some people, I have really been enjoying the multiversal saga, and I love all the multiverse and timey-wimey things, so I am very excited to see Deadpool 3. And we just had a huge post-credit scene in the Marvels, which introduced our Monica Rambeau, or Photon, to another universe that had Binary, played by a variant of her mother, Maria Rambeau, and a new and improved Beast. And I really hope that we see all 3 of them, at least just briefly, in Deadpool 3. That would just be the cherry on top for me. Now, we did just do a quick breakdown of that post-credit scene, so check it out on the channel, and check out our The Marvels films breakdown, as well as our other breakdowns from Loki, What If, and there are more on the way, especially now that The Marvels is out on Disney+. What did you think of the trailer? Who do you think we're going to see in Deadpool and Wolverine? Will we see Taylor Swift, and will she be herself or the Dazzler? Are we going to see Photon, Binary, or Beast? I really hope so. Let me know in the comments below, or let me know on my socials. The links are in the description. I love hearing from you guys, and I love being able to talk about the MCU and all the things we love about it. I'd really appreciate it if you could give the video a thumbs up, and make sure to click that subscribe button for more Marvel and Marvel Funko Pops. I'm Nico at Pop Incursions. See you next time.